This is Michael Popak, Legal AF. Another day, another loss for Donald Trump in the New York appellate courts. This time, the highest court in New York, the Court of Appeals, has denied in a one-line order, a sua sponte, on their own initiative order, dismissed yet another appeal of Donald Trump of Judge Juan Merchan, the New York State Supreme Court judge presiding over the 34-count felony conviction. His gag order, modified gag order, against Donald Trump still remains standing. Donald Trump was convicted of 34 felony counts. His sentencing will be before Thanksgiving, about 2 days before Thanksgiving. And what do you have now? You have Donald Trump having lost already twice at the lower appellate court level, and even with this Court of Appeals in the last several months, going back to the well once again, asking again to have 2 desserts after his meal. And the appellate court, the Court of Appeals, looking at it and going, there is no substantial constitutional question that the modified gag order is valid, and therefore your appeal is denied. Good day, sir. There is the door. They did this already back in June on almost the exact same grounds. No substantial constitutional ground. What could be the constitutional ground? Well, what Donald Trump and his lawyers, led by Todd Blanche, are jumping up and down about is they claim that Donald Trump's core constitutional First Amendment presidential campaign speech is somehow being impinged or fettered because Judge Merchan, in a modified gag order, says you can't go after Manhattan District Attorney staff and their families, the judge's family, that doesn't say anything about the judge, and you can't go after potential witnesses, although Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen, who have already testified in a modified order, he is allowed to comment on them. The case is over. The 34 felony count conviction has happened. The jury of 12 fair and impartial jurors in New York has spoken, 12-0 against Donald Trump. So the judge smartly, when the issue was raised post-conviction and pre-sentencing as to whether the gag order needed to remain in place, he says it does. We're not done with the process. We're not done with the appeal, and I haven't sentenced Donald Trump yet. That sentencing was supposed to happen in the middle of July. Or the 1st of July, the middle of July. It got postponed because the United States Supreme Court made an immunity ruling on July 1st, which backed up onto the convictions and the ultimate sentencing. So it's still a live case, and Donald Trump hasn't yet been sentenced. And sensitive to that, Judge Merchan, in administering justice, which is what his job is, that's why he punches a time clock every day, to administer justice fairly and impartially. Justice is blind in his courtroom, has said, I'm going to modify it. I originally said you can't, Trump, go after any witness or foreseeable witness against you. We know who the witnesses are against you. And now you're free to comment about those witnesses. I haven't sentenced you yet, meaning if you're not going to show contrition, if you're not going to show acceptance of responsibility, those are all things that go into my sentence. See, that's the thing Donald Trump never understands. This is the competing world of Donald Trump's like Janus with multiple faces in mythology. Right? He's got the campaigner in chief. He's got the narcissist in chief. He's got the abuser in chief. He's got the criminally indicted person in chief, and he's got the criminally convicted person in chief. And they often don't all, it's like a Tower of Babel. They can't all be coherent because Donald Trump's not coherent. He's unwell. We saw that on the debate stage. So what helps him in the campaign and for him to continue to activate the MAGA base and throw red meat at the base doesn't help him in his criminal cases. You haven't been sentenced yet, dummy. Speaking of you, Donald Trump, you haven't been sentenced yet. All of this data about your conduct and behavior during the trial, before the trial, after the trial, all the way up until the moment of sentencing is all part of the milieu of what the judge is going to consider in sentencing you, including your failure to accept responsibility, your failure to show contrition, and ask for the mercy of the court. So you want to go out and continue to bash everybody? You can, you're not gagged, but it's still a data point that's going to be used by the judge in your ultimate sentencing, which I think is going to be some level of incarceration and jail time on the 26th of November, just before Thanksgiving. Oh, what I would pay to be around the Trump family table for Thanksgiving. A scene from Norman Rockwell, it's not. So you've got Donald Trump acting inappropriately and continuing to file new appeals. Some of you might be scratching your head. Is this like an old hot take that Popak is doing again? It's not. He filed an original appeal in May with the same Court of Appeals to try to get rid of Judge Merchan. And they said, no, there's nothing about what Judge Merchan did or what his daughter does for a living that has no impact on his administration of justice in that courtroom. And we're not going to grant your motion for disqualification or to get rid of Judge Merchan. He tried that 3 or 4 more times, all unsuccessfully. I mean, at this point, Donald Trump is 0-12 in the New York appellate court system where I practice, trying to reverse the decision or attack Judge Merchan and or his daughter and or the gag order. In June, the New York Court of Appeals did the exact same thing as I said earlier in the hot take. Your appeal of the gag order to take it off you before sentencing is denied. Dismissed. It's even worse. It's not just denied. It's dismissed sua sponte on our own initiative because there's no merit. There's no constitutional question in place. We don't buy your core presidential speech, campaign speech, BS defense. That's what the Court of Appeals is saying. And they are the highest court in New York. We have a Supreme Court in New York, but it's the trial level court, just to be confusing. So as a kid, I loved eating cereal. But as an adult, I don't want all that sugar, and most cereals don't give me the protein I need. Then I found Magic Spoon, a nostalgically delicious cereal that tastes just like my childhood favorites, but without the sugar and with a ton of protein. And if you're already a Magic Spoon fan, I got big news. Magic Spoon has turned their super popular cereal into high-protein treats that are light, crispy, and taste just like those classic crunchy cereal bars. Magic Spoon's brand new treats are so delicious, they've already become my favorite before and after gym snack. Every serving of Magic Spoon cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs, so you can feel good about what you're eating. The most popular flavors are fruity and cocoa, and there's so many more. Magic Spoon's brand new treats are crispy, crunchy, airy, and an easy way to get 11 grams of protein on the go. And for the first time ever, Magic Spoon treats are available in grocery stores with delicious flavors like marshmallow and chocolatey peanut butter. My favorite is Magic Spoon's chocolatey peanut butter treats. And by the way, they're my wife's favorite too. They're our favorite late night snack. Get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/legalaf or look for Magic Spoon in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/legalaf for $5 off. Magic Spoon, hold on to the dream. And so we also had another ruling by this is how it got up to the Court of Appeals, the intermediary court. There's one stop on the appellate train before the Court of Appeals, and that is the First Department Appellate Division, or in New York, which I'm a member of. It sits in Manhattan. It handles all things in Manhattan about appeal. They also ruled in June also that the gag order would not be. In May that the gag order was appropriate and dismissed it, leading to Donald Trump taking another appeal. See, Donald Trump can't take no for an answer or take yes for an answer. He got sort of what he wanted in the New York Supreme Court conviction case. He did not want to be sentenced before the debate. He did not want to be sentenced before the election. And he got that. But be careful what you ask for, because now Judge Merchan did 2 things. He decided to postpone the sentencing to the 26th of November, but he's not going to rule on his immunity decision as to whether any aspect of the immunity order and decision by the United States Supreme Court maps onto the convictions, the way the trial was handled, the evidence that was used, or any of that, to try to argue, as Trump has done, to dismiss the indictment, dismiss and vacate the jury's, nullify the jury's verdicts. Which is an extraordinary thing. Almost never happens, rarely happens, only under extraordinary grounds that aren't present here. Judge is not going to make that decision until after the election either, which means the judge has thrown shade onto Donald Trump. He's cast a shadow on Donald Trump, and it came up on the debate stage when Kamala Harris smartly, former prosecutor that she is, said, and you're going to be sentenced for 34 felony counts. See, if Donald Trump had been sentenced and he had somehow skated by and didn't get jail time, he could have used that at the debate stage. But he was afraid that Judge Merchan, and he should be, is going to send him to jail. And he didn't want to go there, even if the sentence had been suspended to allow for an appeal. He didn't want to go up on that debate stage as a convicted, sentenced to jail time felon. But now, What is it? Nature abhors a vacuum. Now everybody can kind of fill in the gaps. Is he going to get 5 years? Is he going to get 10 years? Is he going to get 20 years? Is he going to pick up litter on the side of the road? What is his jail sentence going to be? And Kamala Harris and her campaign can run with that. And he has no way to get to the United States Supreme Court. See, Judge Merchan shut the door to the exit ramp for Donald Trump to take his case over to the feds. He's been trying to jump the tracks in our system of state court and federal court running parallel together. You only have limited abilities to take your criminal case to federal court if a state prosecutor has brought a case against you. Donald Trump claims he was a federal officer. He was acting under federal color of his office, his job description, if you will, for the presidency when he slept with Stormy Daniels, trying to pay her off to avoid the electorate knowing about it in October when he beat Hillary Clinton. The election interference that worked as compared to 2020 when it didn't. And so Donald Trump, Donald Trump, in terms of that set of facts, the question is whether it could be a federal case for federal defenses over to the United States Supreme Court. We'll never know prior to the election. And that's the thing. He thought his cronies and buddies and MAGA golf buddies over on the United States Supreme Court were going to bail him out again, led by Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Sam Alito. It's not getting over there because Merchan shut the door, barred the door, padlocked it, and threw away the key. I'm not even going to rule on the immunity decision until after the election. That's what you get. And then you compare that, one last thing in this hot take, about miscalculation, too smart by half strategy and tactics by Donald Trump, is that in the Chutkan case, the D.C. election interference federal case, the federal government, the Department of Justice Special Counsel, Jack Smith's office, is going to have not one but two opportunities to tell the American people in a filing before the election what is the new evidence that we've never heard against Donald Trump that they're going to have to use to defend the indictment from being dismissed under the immunity decision. And the judge went with the prosecutors. That was prosecutors 1, Trump 0 for how they're going to handle the immunity decision. Prosecutor said, we have a lot of evidence that we want to put before the American people. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. And we'd like to go first because if we go first in briefing, the person that goes first, the entity that goes first gets 2 briefs. The entity that opposes get 1 brief. So they didn't want to go second. They wanted to go first. And the judge says, that's a good idea. Let's let the government go first. So the government's going first in September the 26th. Then there's going to be another brief in October by the government. And we're going to get, like the Jan 6 committee, a full explanation of all of the evidence against Donald Trump once again, right before the election. Good work, Donald. So now going into the election, people think you're going to be incarcerated, potentially in their minds for years. That's one. You have no ability to get to the United States Supreme Court because of the way the Judge Merchan handled the immunity decision, delaying that as well. And the prosecutors in the federal side are going to be able to present a mini case against you to the American people, not once, but twice, 2 bites at the apple before the election. Great work, great tactics and strategy by Donald Trump, that the stable genius when it comes to his litigation. This is a guy who lost 60 cases in trying to interfere with the election. He's lost 12 appeals at the New York State Supreme Court level and at the appellate level in New York. I mean, he rarely, if ever, wins. Yeah, there's an occasional judge who's usually Trump appointed that votes in his way. Let's dismiss the indictment in Florida because maybe the special counsel is a figment of our imagination and isn't properly appointed under the Constitution. That will all get sorted out by another appellate court, I assure you, against Donald Trump in the 11th Circuit. But for right now, what's the headline, the takeaway on this hot take? New York's highest court rejects Donald Trump for the second time on the gag order. The gag order remains in place against Donald Trump as modified by Judge Merchan all the way through sentencing on the 26th of November. We'll follow it all, just the way we're doing here on Legal AF. We sit at the intersection of law and politics, that crossroads, so that you don't have to. Find out what 40 million people a month already know, that Legal AF on YouTube is the home for legal and political commentary and analysis like no other. On Wednesdays, I do the show. You can watch us on YouTube being recorded on MeidasTouch with Karen Friedman McNiffalo on Wednesdays, with Ben Mysalis on Saturdays. And then I do hot takes like this about every hour right here So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popak reporting. Heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.